Assalamualaikum everyone. My name is Natasha and welcome to another episode of Shaam Ki Chai where I interview Pakistanis doing really cool things. Today we have with us Ayesha Mehdi, who is a partner at Spencer Fain LLP. She specializes in healthcare law and she works with a lot of large healthcare organizations on their legal cases. Thank you so much for being with us, Ayesha.
Thank you so much for having me.
And did you have a law background moving to the US or is that something you started out here?
It was out here, so I had no law background at all. I had done my A levels, which were in the sciences, so that was not
Oh,
at all
okay.
close to the law. And then I did my bachelor's, like 2 years of bachelor's in finance. So that was
Wow.
not close to law either. So there was just I just didn't know which direction I was going to go after my bachelor's.
Okay.
I thought maybe it would be my MBA, but it turned out to be law.
What prompted you to choose law? Let's start with that and learn about that a little bit.
Yeah, in Pakistan, at least 20 years ago, that was the case. I believe things are changing now with good
Mhm.
institutions coming up and, having qualified lawyers.
Yeah.
But for me, what prompted me was the lack of diversity in the law. So I was convinced by a Pakistani American law professor. I met him at the mosque one day. It was like a fated
Okay.
day. So I met him
Yeah.
and he just wanted to talk about, we just spoke about careers and stuff. And then he kind of said,
Mhm.
hey, why don't you think about the legal field here? And
Got it.
you have to sit an LSAT exam and look into it. And I think I told you, like, he told me, and it was literally like 2 days later was the deadline, so I just signed up for the LSAT and sat it. So
That's incredible. Not only did you do that, you did that while you were pregnant. You're missing out a very big piece of that. So how was that? I mean, that's such a badass move right there.
yeah, I just had this fear that, it was my first child, so I didn't know how it would be studying with a baby.
Right.
So I just wanted to sit any exam, whether it was my GMAT or the LSAT, which I later learned about, just to sit it before the baby was born. So the baby was going to be born in January, and this was
Hmm.
like I sat the December LSAT. So I had a month to prepare, and I just studied day in and day out. And like I said, I was the 9 month old waddling, a 9 month pregnant lady waddling into the
Oh
exam
my.
hall, but
That's, I
it
mean,
went okay.
that's incredible. I mean, a young girl actually, 9 month with like a baby
Yeah.
coming. That's awesome. How did your parents react when they found out that you wanted to be a lawyer?
I think my family, like I grew up with this concept that I would always do something. And in Pakistan, that just tends to be medicine, or, because if you're good in studies, that's like, okay,
Yes.
you're going to be a doctor. So I
Right.
was raised with this, that I would have a profession. But
Okay.
when my interest in medical waned, my parents sort of didn't realize that I would still be very ambitious.
Absolutely did not. And you went through law school as like a first time young mom. And so
Yeah.
let's talk a bit more about that experience because a lot of times, especially in our culture, like, we feel like once you have a kid, that's it. Like, then you focus on your family, but you've obviously changed that narrative so much. So tell us a bit more about what that experience was like. Did you have days where you were like, I just can't do this anymore? How did your community react to it? Like, just like dive a little bit more into that.
There's many things that was happening at that time. So
Sure.
I felt there was just like you need to be motivated from within.
Right.
So I was very, very motivated that I would complete my graduate studies. So I
Mhm.
just did not want to stop at undergrad, and I
Mm.
was also very motivated to be financially independent.
Right.
So even though when you're married, it's your husband's money is your money, but for me, it was like I wanted to earn by myself.
Sure.
So I just didn't want anything to stop me from doing that. And
Right.
I think that was just the fire that I needed to just continue.
Mhm.
Um, and then as far as the community is concerned, I mean, like my family was just really concerned about balancing,
Yeah.
family and being a good wife and a mom with my education and career. So
Right.
that was just their worry that whether I'll be able to do it or not. And
Mm.
I think just having a husband that was also very encouraging through this journey helps
Yeah.
tremendously. Like having a partner who really
Yeah.
believes in you, because he's a very easy person to be with, alhamdulillah. So
Mm.
he's just like
Wonderful.
he does not want to be served dinner like the traditional way, like, you
Right,
know, to
right,
iron
right,
his
right.
clothes, or like he's
Yeah,
just so he's very independent himself. So
got
he just did not want anything, like he wanted me to be independent too. There are generally two paths to partnership in law firms, right? One is that you
it.
start as an associate and you work your way up. So usually it
Okay.
takes about, like, you know, 6-7 years to make partner, and you have
Okay.
to build your own book of business, right? And so
Got
you have to be like that rainmaker associate who brings in the clients. The second path is that you join as a lateral partner. So you have your own book of business already, and then you
it.
bring
Okay.
it to the firm, right? And so the reason why you
Yep.
would bring it to the firm is because you know, you're getting better resources at the firm.
Mhm,
So
mhm.
for me, the timing was very good. So after like a couple of years, I was just ready to, you know, grow in my practice.
Very
And
cool.
I could only do that if I had partners around me and a team to help me, you
Mm,
know, if I wanted to do more complex transactions. And
mhm.
so, you know, when the opportunity came, I took it. And then Spencer Fain is a great firm and is based out of Kansas City. So
Mhm.
I went to, you know, University of Kansas School of Law. So that's where the
Oh,
connection
very
was.
cool.
Yeah.
Oh, that's really cool. So then, with all of this, being a young mom, being a partner at a law firm, so like so young and early on in your career, do you ever face imposter syndrome?
You know, I did that. I had that syndrome when I started my practice. So
Okay.
yeah, so I think it takes time, like, you know, not anymore, but like when I started my practice, that's because I was all by myself and I
Mm,
was putting myself out there as the healthcare law expert. And I didn't
gotcha.
have the experience behind me to say
Mm,
that, you know, but
mm,
I had the education, I had the practical experience, you know, but it
mm.
wasn't like the experience of a you know, solid healthcare law experience. So yeah,
Sure,
that's when
sure.
I felt it. And honestly, it was true. It was like almost like a fake it till you make it sort of thing. Um,
Interesting. Okay.
and but over the years, it just goes away, because then you are, when you keep doing the same thing, then you do end up becoming a so-called expert. So.
Would you recommend to younger girls that are pursuing law or wanting to pursue law, or just younger students, I guess it's not specific to girls, to start their own practice? Is that something you would recommend for everyone?
You know, it's yes, you know, yes, I would, but there's like a condition in the sense that it's not easy. So if you
Gotcha.
do have some resources that you can lean on while you're building your practice, that
Mm-hmm.
is very important. Because when I
Exactly.
started my law practice, I had a spouse who was earning as well, so I didn't have to worry
Right,
about paying my mortgage, right?
right, right. Yep.
When there was absolutely no one at the door. You know, it
Right.
takes time to build your practice, like especially the first year. I mean, that could not have paid my bills, but I was
Right, right.
still just building my practice. So that's just one
Gotcha.
of those things that when you're right out of law school, many, you know, people have debt. So
Yep.
it's sort of like a vicious cycle. Like, you know, they end up
Mm-hmm.
in these jobs because they have to pay off their debt. And then
Mm-hmm.
they reach that stage when they have to get married or have kids, and then they don't want to take the
Right,
risk. So it's
right, right,
not
right.
easy to
Mm,
start your practice, but if you have
right,
resources, whether it's your spouse or your parents or some loved ones or your own savings, you know, you've done
right, right.
well and saved over the years, then you should, it's an incredible experience to have your own practice.
That's
Yeah.
really interesting. And I think another really interesting thing I think about you and your career is that you have a very vibrant personality on social media. So now a lot of my friends that are in the legal profession try and keep their professional life and their personal life and their social media presence all separate, but you've beautifully merged that together. So why don't we talk a little bit more about that, and if you think that's changing in the legal profession and we'll see a lot more lawyers building up their social media presence.
Well, first of all, thank you. And then, yes, you know, lawyers will be changing. I already see them on TikTok, and I see their presence on
Okay.
social media.
You're kidding. Okay.
Yeah, no, seriously, it's like I could not do that. And kudos to them. I mean, that's like they're creative, and they put themselves out there, and they put themselves out there as attorneys.
Right.
So for me, it's been I err on the side of being conservative. So I do have a social media presence, but again, I think that just grew. It wasn't meant to be in
Yeah,
the sense that, so you know, so it just grew. So I am very cautious with what I put out there, especially when it comes to anything legal related. So I just
right,
try to
right.
keep it like inspiring as I can, you know, and it's more like a diary for myself to keep myself motivated as well.
We're going to wrap up this interview. And as we wrap it up, I'm going to ask you the question that I ask everyone. The show is called Shaam Ki Chai. And so I want to learn more about the Shaam Ki Chai traditions at your home, how you grew up, you know, what your traditions were while you were growing up. I'd love to learn about what kind of chai you drank and what you ate and what you talked about.
Well, growing up in Pakistan, I have beautiful memories of Shaam Ki Chai, you know,
Yeah.
so they always revolve around Shaam Ki Chai with, you know, with a trolley with pound cake and biscuits and, you know, from biscuits from the bakery, gourmet
Mhm,
bakery or something like that, or
mhm.
lemon tarts from Gymkhana. You know, these things are always there.
Yes.
So, and pastries, chicken patties is what we call them.
Chicken. I miss chicken
Yeah,
patties so much. And you
right.
don't get those here. You really don't
Yeah.
get those here.
Yeah, so that tradition has always been there in my family. And what I
Mm.
remember most fondly is having Sham Ki Chai with my grandfather. So my grandfather
Okay.
has passed away, but he used to have, like,
Okay.
he used to be in his home was in Sahiwal in Pakistan.
Okay.
And then in the summer, he would go to Murray and then he
Mhm.
would come to Lahore. So I
Very
remember
nice.
having Sham Ki Chai in Sahiwal with him in his room, or
Wow.
in Murray, outside in the terrace, or in Lahore out on our veranda. So those are the beautiful memories.
That's incredible. Thank you so much for sharing, Aisha. And thank you so much for taking the time to be here and talk to us and, you know, tell us about your journey.
No, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Awesome, guys. Well, thanks for listening. Tune into another episode of Shaam Ki Chai, and I'll catch you next time.